like to now turn to Joseph, if that's okay. So, as I said earlier, Joseph's from London Sport, which is an active partnership. So for those who aren't aware, active partnerships are county-based. So essentially their role is to try and facilitate physical activity in sport at a local level. And within the strategy, there was an emphasis on trying to use local authorities and active partnerships to try and increase physical activity. Specifically, there was a suggestion that of the local place-based investment from Sport England, 75% of it will be targeted at places with the most requirements. Physical activity and sport participation rates being lowest or low social outcomes. So, Joseph, I'd like to turn to you, and now, how would you assess the focus on local authorities and active partnerships in terms of what the strategy is saying, in terms of being able to get to the 700,000 target?
Okay, so, well, I can give you a bit of context before I sort of share my thoughts with you. The strategy itself is really ambitious, I feel, but also it's only like 6 years to achieve that target. That's really challenging for a lot of organisations. And obviously I feel as though the strategy, I don't know, that figure of 700,000 feels as though it's been plucked out of thin air. So were there any proper discussions there with the disability organisations and other various expertise? And obviously looking at resources as well. So if you look at the Active Lives results, if you look at the year 2015 to now, 2023 only, there's only 4.2% increase for disabled people that have, in terms of their participation. So in that time frame, you'd expect there to be a lot more, and I don't see how we'd be able to achieve that figure. So it raises a lot of questions in terms of like the strategy. Who are we targeting exactly? Who are the audience? And secondly, who sets the baseline? What are we measuring against? And for what year? Is that 2015, 2020? But also the strategy as well ties into the monitoring and the evaluation. So the problem there is the Active Live survey. It has probably around 170,000 participants included in that survey, but a very small number of disabled people. So how do we kind of monitor that progress at a local level? Because it's not really a large enough sample. So there's quite a lot of questions there that need to be answered. And there's conversations, obviously, that need to happen with disability organisations, like disability sports coaching, Metro Blind Sports, and also London Marathon as well events. So all those kind of things. So I just don't know how that kind of came about, really. So if we're moving on to like the role of local authorities and active partnerships, yes, we have an important role because we obviously distribute funds and we work with partnerships. Obviously we have in local authorities and just to identify what's needed in terms of resources. Excuse me. So strategy organisations obviously only work with corporate, so we don't actually deliver those activities. What we do is that we rely on charities, other sports organisations who will then go and deliver those on behalf of the active partnerships. So if you were to ask disability charities, sports and charities to deliver, it is a really big ask because most of us obviously are really struggling with funding, just so that they can deliver those. It just means that we can't always rely on the goodwill of charities just to meet and achieve that target of 700,000. So it doesn't seem to be very fair. So from a strategic viewpoint, I think it's probably a bit too much. And just throwing in what have also already been mentioned about with benefits, and it's kind of like becomes a trap, and a lot of disabled people can be quite reluctant because they don't want to become inactive because obviously there's the risk of the benefits being taken away or reduced. So there's all that going on and all that trying to get through those kind of issues. So the 700,000 target is a very difficult target to reach in that 6-year time frame.
Yes, a really excellent point. Thank you, Joseph. I'd just like to comment on what you said about the 700,000 target and where that came from. I mean, for me, when I was looking at the data, if you take the current physical activity rate for disabled people, so that particular population figure, If you try to get to 700,000 more, that's about a 9% increase, roughly. Now that suggests we're doubling what we've done over how many years, like you just said. Is that realistic? Well, I'll leave that open question for you guys. By shaking of the head, I'm presuming no.
Yeah, I mean, also just to throw in as well, when we go back to like targeting audience, you know, who are they? Are we talking about people with long-term health conditions, or are we talking about people that have a disability that maybe just one impairment, if you want to use that word, like myself, or are there multiple? So we just need some more resource support there, and obviously that would require more funding just to support that. So who would it be? Which would it be? There's no kind of mention of that in the strategy.
Okay, again, yeah, I mean, it's just about trying to get the detail, isn't it, behind the suggestions of what's going to happen. I'd love to carry on talking about this, but we're a bit tight for time. But all I'd say is, I think when we were talking with Laura just a minute ago about what the government are doing, you know, we've also got public sector funding being squeezed at the moment. Some local authorities are bankrupt or going into a very difficult situation. So, you know, if we're relying on that local level, we've got to be also mindful of the fact that it's probably going to be a patchwork throughout the country. So